And the biggest story on PFT for the month of May, most trafficked, most viewed, was the story based on your reporting that Jordon Hudson had been banned, your word, banned from the North Carolina facility. And that sparked a very carefully worded and heavily loaded statement from North Carolina that said plenty about the situation. But do you have any, banned, because banned means if you show up, we're calling the cops. And you never meant it that way. And I got it from the start. I'd like to think the trained eye would say, of course they're not barricading the door with furniture to keep her out. The point is, she was involved, and something happened to cause someone from UNC to say to Bill Belichick, moving forward, she will not be involved. And that was basically the first line of their statement.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for letting me clarify. I mean, part of the thing that I am finding as I do magazine-style investigative journalism in a podcast medium is that, when I say ban, I mean it and I stand by it, but I am also not implying that snipers were ready to take her out.
Geez.
Like it wasn't like, and I've been talking to people in Carolina since, and they have pointed out that, look, Carolina as an institution on the sports side has literally had to ban people, as in, we will arrest you at the door. Right? So there are gradations, the terror alert scale of banning. I probably was a bit flippant in my conversational presentation of what it means when the university says to Jordon Hudson, you are not welcome here, you are not wanted here, you cannot be here. And so the PR statement that you put, right, that you just cited, it's fascinating, Mike, as a PR statementologist. They could have said this reporting is incorrect. She's welcome here anytime. They did not. They said she does not work for us. She is not involved with us. And she works exclusively in the capacity of Bill Belichick's personal brand. And also she is welcome in the building. And so I think what I gave them inadvertently, and I can't tell if I inadvertently benefit from this or not, I gave them just enough of a shaft of daylight to include in that sandwich in which most of the layers are confirming what I've said, enough to say, you might see her one day here, and doesn't that mean that this reporter is effectively incorrect? I will just then briefly give the postscript, which is that Bill Belichick, very uncoincidentally, under the guidance of a new PR person, Brandon Faber, who you've covered on your site as well, is saying stuff explicitly to ESPN, to Ryan Clark, to Michael Strahan. She's off to the side. That's a personal relationship, not personal and professional. Certainly not the person who was CC'd on every single email, according to public records requests, by the University of North Carolina at the request of Bill Belichick. Not the person who's on the field, not the person who was guiding his thinking about how he is operating and moving with his branding. By the way, to add a bit of just a wrinkle here, right? CBS Sunday Morning, they initially said, and this is something that I did not put in the episode, but I have reported, they wanted to do that thing that blew up with the navy sweater with the holes in it and the matching navy sweatshirt she was wearing. They wanted to do that at Chapel Hill. They wanted to do it at Carolina. And Jordon Hudson was the one who said, no, we have that for something else. So already she's affecting, wait a minute, the marketing, one of the biggest platforms to market the football team. And then, of course, getting to Hard Knocks, right? They're supposed to do that. And Jordon Hudson, as you've chronicled extensively, is responsible for that blowing up too. And so the whole idea of she's off to the side, she was never involved. I've seen enough reporters, Mike, who love to suck up to coaches, who are like, look, the Jordon Hudson story was wildly exaggerated from the start. And all I can tell them is that you guys got to do some reporting if you think that that's plausible, that we are overestimating the impact here, because it's verified, documented, now increasingly public. Like, they're missing the story. And that's what's also darkly humorous about this.
Well, yeah, even in post-truth America, when the BS is so obvious from the cleanup effort after the fact, she's not involved with North Carolina football with the kind of strength that suggests she never was. But then, she had to deal with some of these PR requests because there was no one here to serve as the SID. Yeah, because he didn't want whoever was there, apparently. They had multiple SID employees. The guy who was in charge of football PR under Mac Brown is now reassigned to other sports under the North Carolina Athletic Department. So It's just an odd way of trying to push back because it's incomplete, it feels disingenuous at best, and it obscures the reality that she was heavily involved. And this idea that somebody would just show up and work for any organization that they're not employed by, it made me think of the old bit from Seinfeld when Kramer started showing up at Brant Leland and working there until they ultimately fired him because his work sucked. Like, no one's going to work for someone for free. And even if they want to do it, there are mechanisms for volunteers. You just don't let someone show up who's not on the payroll and provide services. That creates a whole host of problems that North Carolina eventually closed the book on.
And also, there's a parallel here to the NFL. And you, of course, covered this and you know it well. But the whole fear with Belichick, among several, with NFL teams was, who's he going to bring with him? You know, like, who is his inner circle? Who's he going to empower? Who's going to be running things? So just know that the person who would be doing this in the NFL in a parallel way would have been Jordon Hudson. And maybe there would have been more resistance. Maybe. I can't say for sure. Team by team, it differs. But Carolina, man, when you go to the origin story of that, right? Bubba Cunningham, the AD, does not want Bill Belichick. Chancellor does. Some powerful political allies in Carolina say, we got to get the greatest of all time. We're Carolina football. We're not Carolina basketball. This can save and revitalize us. And so it's an over-the-top thing in which there is a real overruling. And the idea that Jordon Hudson came to power as a result of a power struggle is also why we are seeing why it's more than just salacious tabloid stuff. It's actually how the sausage gets made at universities, in sports, among powerful people.
And it's unprecedented that any coach, regardless of the age gap, and the age gap is irrelevant to the fact that there is someone close to the coach who is not employed by the organization, who was actively working for the organization, actively directing other employees at North Carolina. That in and of itself is a big deal because that never happens. And again, for it to happen to the ultimate, no distractions, do your job football coach makes it so much more compelling. On the North Carolina angle, I don't think people appreciate the significance of June 1. Mm-hmm. On June 1, Bill Belichick has the power to write a check for $1 million and walk away. That gives him so much more power than he currently has. Because if they push him and push him and push him, all he's got to do is pull out the checkbook, and he's gone. And he's gone. And they're high and dry without Bill Belichick. And I feel like that angle has been grossly underreported, underanalyzed, and underestimated by our colleagues in the media.
Yeah, look, this was weird before Jordon Hudson became a character, one of the protagonists. It was weird based on that language alone, right? It comes 10 times cheaper for him to pull his own parachute cord. Like, what is that about? What does that imply? And I think it implies very clearly that Bill Belichick wanted an escape hatch to go to the NFL. And now it seems increasingly obvious that that escape hatch is not going to be activated to go to the league. But now it becomes this thing of, am I actually the boss in the way that I need to be? Am I in charge in the way that I demand to be? And is my demand being guided not merely by my inner circle of the same people I've been with that NFL teams kind of quietly laugh at behind the scenes, right? You know, it's also guided by her because they have a relationship in which Bill Belichick has told multiple people that I've talked to directly, he has called her brilliant. He has tried to get her 6-figure jobs on the media enterprises that he was also working for. She is the COO of Belichick Productions, even if that LLC is not actually incorporated anywhere. That's the LinkedIn profile. She is his idea mill and creative muse per the acknowledgments page of his book. She is the person that you had to deal with if you were Matt Damon, Mike. Like the whole idea of, no, she's doing the lower level stuff. No, this is at the top. And so the speed running through industry industries that she's not familiar with. Look, I'll be generous here, right? Maybe she thinks she's doing what's best for Bill. All I can tell you, based on reporting and evidence, on information and belief, as they say, in a courtroom that I hope to maybe never have to enter.
But you're absolutely right. Information and belief has done a lot of work over the years. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's done a lot of work. And what it's telling us is that the unintended, at best, consequences of her being in charge has been disastrous for, and I cannot stress this, both of us have reported silly, absurd, shocking stories with many twists and turns. To me, this one is distinguished by the fact pattern of behind-the-scenes disaster, trails of not merely information and belief, Mike, but footage, on camera mistakes. And when your job is PR, you could argue that that's the number one thing you need to avoid. And it keeps on happening over and over and over again.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.